Hello everyone, John from Gaming in the Wild here, and welcome to September 2025, the month that will be forever known in video game circles as the month of Silksong. That's right, it's finally here, and like all of you out there, I cannot wait to play it, but there are a whole host of other games that are also coming out this month, from a photorealistic Myst-like to a cyberpunk body shop simulator to whatever the hell Henry Halfhead is. So in this video, I'll be running through the 10 indie games that I think are worth your attention this month, and then at the end we'll have a little trundle through some of the AA and AAA titles that September 2025 has to offer. And September really is unusually stacked, I would say, so I think you're going to find something good to wishlist in here. And if you do, please drop a like on the video. It helps other people to find this channel, which is small and still growing, so I really appreciate that. You can always sub to the channel for more like this, and I will tell you all about the channel's fantastic patron community in a while. And with that, let's get into it. This is September 2025 in video games. I want to start with Neyyah, that's Neyyah. This is a bit of a blast from the past in that it was published by Microprose. That was a name that I had not seen in a long time. You might remember them if you were a computer game nerd back before they were called video games. Microprose started way back in 1982, and in that decade they became known as one of the biggest publishers in the world alongside EA and Activision. But they obviously didn't hit the same heights as those companies, and the name was out of use until it was brought back to life a couple of years ago by new ownership. That brings us to Neyyah, which came out on the second. It's a faithful looking Myst and Riven-like where you travel through beautifully rendered scenes that I was very impressed by actually. Although it doesn't look like you control movement directly, you actually solve puzzles and see FMV cutscenes with some pretty hilarious, so bad it's good acting, I would say. So if you're into that whole puzzle world point and click vibe, this could be one to check out. That's Neyyah, and it is out now on Steam. And to do a quick handbrake turn and go from one of the smallest indie releases of September to indisputably the biggest indie release of the year, the next game is Silksong. I started making most anticipated indies videos 3 years ago, and Hollow Knight Silksong was of course amongst the most anticipated in all of them. Like basically everyone, I absolutely adored Hollow Knight, which lets the player get lost in a very special kind of way in a vast, dripping underground kingdom. You wander the passageways looking for the way forward, and when you finally do stumble through a small doorway into another biome, you really do feel like a bold explorer in a forgotten world. The combat is precise, the character writing is wonderful and simple, and the visuals and music are just out of this world. I cannot overstate how effective the music is in carving out Hollow Knight's unique atmosphere. I'm on the record as thinking this is the best Metroidvania ever made that just transcends the genre to become an all-time indie great, and Silksong is going to be another such world to explore. This time we play as Hornet, the antagonist from the first game, or one of them at least, and I simply cannot wait to take control of Hornet and see what this new world has to offer. From what we know so far, it's going to have more characters, more quests, a bigger map, and we'll be travelling upwards rather than down into the Hallow Nest. It's crazy to think that this game started as DLC and has become the biggest indie game of the year. I think that we'll probably be hearing a lot about Hollow Knight Silksong come year end at Games of the Year time. I'm going to be very curious how it goes when it locks horns with games like Death Stranding 2 and Claire Obscure when it comes to Games Awards and that kind of thing. That's Hollow Knight Silksong, out on everything on the 4th of the month. And that game is a heavy hitter that everyone knows about, but I know that a lot of you out there also enjoy hearing about small indie weirdos, solo dev projects, and hidden gems, and this next pick ticks all of those boxes for you. It's called Quality Dreams Reasonably Priced, and it's a solo developer project about working in a cyberpunk body mod clinic. It's a visual novel style game where you talk to clients, you welcome them in, you find out what they want done, and then you choose dialogue options to hear their stories and advise them on what they might buy, and you do have to decide whether or not you're going to try and upsell them and how far, because you do need money as the player character. You're actually trying to save money to finance an operation on your pet, which I think could lead to some interesting moral quandaries, like whether or not you're willing to enable someone's bad life decisions to save your rabbit. That's a really interesting game. It's called Quality Dreams Reasonably Priced, out on Steam on the 8th. On the 10th, we get Katanaut, a fast-paced Metroidvania-inspired 2D action game. I'm really into the look of the action platforming in this one. The combat looks agile and snappy, with lots of dashing straight through enemies to strike them from behind and that kind of thing. But I was a little bit disappointed to hear that it has roguelike elements. I think like many of you out there, I'm kind of over the roguelike genre, for now at least. And while I did enjoy games this year like Lost in Random, The Eternal Die, unless we're talking about like Hades 2, I just don't feel like grinding through levels again and again right now. But I really don't want to malign Katanaut just because of my genre fatigue. It does look really great, and if you are drawn to this grimy, gauzy cyberpunk art or the precision combat, there is a demo of it that you can try on Steam now to see if it's your thing, and who knows, it could be the roguelike of the year. That's Katanaut out on the 10th. And speaking of indie weirdos, here's a cracker for you. It's Unto the Aurora, coming out on the 12th of the month. This one's a short first-person exploration game set in 16th century Scotland. You can complete this one in 1 to 2 hours, and in this game you play as someone who's fleeing a death sentence for witchcraft, which apparently wasn't an influencer trend at the time and was frowned upon, let's say. You have to sail across a hazardous stretch of water to make your escape and start a new life, probably cursing peasants over in France, I guess, and you also have to stay alive in evolving weather conditions and navigate safely to your destination. This is a cool little idea, and if you like it, the developer also has a Scottish cave exploration spelunking game on offer as well. It's out on Steam on the 12th, that's Unto the Aurora. And on the 16th, we get another long-awaited indie game. This one has a bit of buzz about it. It is Henry Halfhead, the sandboxy physics puzzle game where you play as half a head, called Henry. I played this one when I visited the London Games Festival earlier this year, and I really enjoyed it. You have to pass increasingly funny challenges, like piling up household objects into teetering piles or maneuvering unwieldy things from place to place. It's interesting and varied, and you get new skills on a regular cadence, and there's a lot of potential for mischief here. You basically get to wreck this whole house, Katamari style, and experimentation is encouraged by achievements that you get for all kinds of weird stuff that you can do. Having played the intro and the demo, I'm also very curious to see where the game goes and what kind of chaos Henry can cause if they escape out into the neighborhood. It's coming to Steam, Switch, and PS5 on the 16th of the month, and I think this has potential to be a real sleeper indie hit this year. Check it out, that's Henry Halfhead. On the 17th, we get the sequel Strange Antiquities, which comes after Strange Horticulture. These are both shopkeeping games with a bit of a Papers, Please feel to the gameplay. You'll be sorting things and processing things, and I tried out the original game on Steam and on Switch, and I ended up enjoying the idea much more than actually playing it because the text and the UI was incredibly small. I found it unplayable on Switch and difficult and fiddly to get to grips with on Steam, but a lot of people seem to really enjoy this game, so I'm flagging it up here for the tiny Venn diagram of people in my channel's audience who A, have a cinema-sized 8K monitor, and B, have an interest in creepy but cozy shopkeeping games. I know you're out there somewhere, so if that happens to be you, then this could be your lucky day because Strange Antiquities is out on the 17th of the month on Steam and Switch. The next game that I have for you is Wonder Stars. It's the latest offering from the publisher Fellow Traveller. They've released some of the best indie games of recent years, including Citizen Sleeper 1 and 2 and 1000 Times Resist, but they also release a strand of cuter games that I'm not quite as engaged with, like Times and Galaxy or Afterlife EP, and Wonder Stars looks like it might fall into that latter camp. That said, it does seem to have picked up a good amount of hype during its development. It's a turn-based RPG where you combine words into your attacks, and it has Dragon Ball adjacent anime aesthetics. Something about this one isn't singing to me personally, but I know a lot of people out there are excited about it, so I wanted to flag it up for you. It could be cool. I'll be waiting for the reviews to find out. It's coming to PC and Switch on the 19th. That's Wonder Stars. We've got 3 more indie games to go here before we get into the AA and AAA releases, and the next one is a bit of an oddball. It is Baby Steps, one of the games that dived out of the way of Silksong and pushed its release date back in the month, and I think that really makes sense for this game. It's one of those games that is 100% going to be relying on a streamer-based promo strategy because it is the latest game from Bennett Foddy. Bennett Foddy is of course that video game developer provocateur who makes games like Co-op and Getting Over It, and Baby Steps is his latest. In this game you play as a sad dude character with a filthy onesie who has to clumsily walk over tricky terrain towards a tower. Each trigger controls a leg and you will fall at the drop of a hat as you try and keep this guy walking. He will ragdoll, he will lose progress, and so forth. It's a game that is designed around failure and frustration, and Bennett Foddy has said that it's not about getting good, it's about the feeling of trying to get good and failing. And while that seems like a fun thought experiment, I will not be touching this game with a barge pole. I'm just not into this kind of intentionally frustrating troll game experience, but that said, I do appreciate that it exists, and I might dip into a stream or two to vicariously witness the frustration instead of feeling it myself. That is Baby Steps, coming to PS5 and Steam on the 23rd. On the 25th of the month, Consume Me will come out. To quote the developer about Consume Me, it is a game about feeling ugly, stupid, and fat in high school, unquote. It's a game about just trying to get through the high school experience, whether that's organizing yourself for class, dealing with teachers, parents, friends and frenemies, dressing yourself, walking the dog, doing homework, and so forth. And the way that this is represented in gameplay is via a series of WarioWare-style minigames. So it's a gamification of a certain life period with a heavy dose of wry, dark humor, and it promises 13 different endings, quote, most of them bad, unquote. I think that the autobiographical approach of this game is a strength for it, and I've got a feeling it's going to find an audience that loves it as a result. That is Consume Me, going to PC and Mac only for now on the 25th of the month. And finally this month, for indies at least, on the 26th of the month we will get an ambitious new action game from Suda51 called Hotel Barcelona. It's a fast and bloody stylish action game with an impressive array of different kinds of weapons, enemies and playstyles on offer. It has a really arresting, vivid art style, I'd say, and the action looks splattered and crazy and high octane. This game isn't exactly my bag, but I'm very curious to see how it lands. It has a lot of visual flair and it has a sense of joyful destruction, and I'm interested in why Suda51 has become such a cult star of game dev at this point. Suda has to say that it's a game set in a mysterious hotel that stands in a remote location on the border between Pennsylvania and West Virginia. Its luxurious appearance hides a terrifying truth. It's a trap for America's most dangerous serial killers. If you're intrigued by that, then understandably, because so am I, it's coming to PlayStation, Xbox and PC on the 26th of the month. That's Hotel Barcelona. And if you're still listening here at the 12-minute mark, I'm going to guess that you might be the kind of indie game fan who would belong in the Gaming in the Wild channel's Patreon community. I run a Discord for supporters of the channel. It only costs $1 a month to join. You get access to that Discord, you get 20 bonus podcast episodes, you get all of my blogs and notes about content creation and how I make the videos and podcasts that I make. So whether you're a YouTuber or a content creator or a podcaster yourself, or you just love indie games, there will be something there for you. Only costs $1 a month. It's patreon.com/gaminginthewild. Check it out, link on the screen now. I will also say that a single Patreon subscriber is worth thousands of YouTube views, so if you value what I do, I really appreciate everyone who joins that Patreon. Special thanks to boss tier patrons Keris, Shy Guy and King Champ, and with that, on with the show. That brings us to the part of the video where I'll talk about the AA and AAA games that are coming out this month. Usually it's a pretty short section of the video because most of the games that I care about personally are indie games. But I have 7 games to talk about in this category this month. Some of them are ports, some of them are fresh releases, so it's a pretty stacked month all round, I would say. The first game that I was going to mention here is Hirogami, which came out on the 3rd. This one was developed and published by Bandai Namco, and it's a visually interesting 3D platformer where you can morph into different origami animals to overcome obstacles. It's a nice simple idea that you can understand immediately, but I played the demo of this one in Next Fest and I found that it had some issues with depth perception, things like that. I'd sometimes jump towards a platform and just miss despite feeling like I was doing it exactly spot on. Very frustrating, but I don't know if that's just a me thing. One thing that does bear out that opinion is that it's now sitting on a Metacritic score of 65, with critics echoing some of those concerns. But I wanted to flag it up here as I've mentioned it on the channel before, and if nothing else, it's another chance to look at those lovely visuals. That's Hirogami, out now on PS5 and PC. And there were a lot of games this month that scurried out of the way of Silksong, switching release dates to try and still get some attention on their games despite that indie juggernaut. But one game that stood firm is Hell Is Us, and I think that makes sense because not everyone in the world is obsessed with 2D Metroidvanias, so there is room for other things to come out. Hell Is Us is a spooky-looking third-person action-adventure set in a dark, war-torn world with a focus on melee combat and what's described as a semi-open world with no compass to follow. The description states that kind of proudly, but that rings some serious alarm bells for me. I don't particularly like it when games don't show player position on the map. We're in the GPS age now, man, so get with the program. But that says it has some gritty, dark visuals and an interesting wartime setting. It's sitting at an okay 80 on Metacritic. I think I'll watch a stream or two of this one and see how it fares. That's Hell Is Us. Another game that didn't dive out of the way of Silksong is the Star Wars Outlaws port, which is coming to the Switch 2 on the 4th. This game was a vastly underrated sci-fi adventure that made my Games of the Year list last year, despite all of that critical pushback. It's a really thrilling mix of open world questing, speeder bike chases, blaster combat, and a really fun heist story about putting the old crew back together for one last big job. Along the way, you will tangle with classic factions like the Pikes and the Hutts and wrangle the super fun faction system by doing radiant jobs to get in their good books and unlock perks, shops, outfits, and so forth. I feel like this led to a really interesting emergent storytelling type of thing. I think at one point I really had to get into the good books of the Hutts, and I spent an entire hour of gameplay just doing contracts for them. It's not a scripted story section of game, it's just what I had to do as Kay, and so it let me really inhabit that rogue lifestyle. Your journey will also take you to a bunch of brilliantly different planets, including Tatooine, and as well as jumping between planets, it also has some really good space combat and exploration of galaxies and like looking around in asteroid fields for treasure and all of that stuff that was missing from Starfield. I think that Star Wars Outlaws is a step into the Star Wars universe in a way that we've never been offered before. It's a brilliant game and I hope it finds more fans on Switch 2, even though it's coming out on that cursed release date of September the 4th. So may the 4th be with you, that's Star Wars Outlaws. On the 5th of the month, we get Chronos: The New Dawn. It is a sci-fi horror game from Bloober Team, best known to date for the Xbox Series X launch title The Medium and their recent remake of Silent Hill 2. But Chronos: The New Dawn has an instantly iconic masked astronaut as the main character, and it seems to take place in a wrecked alien sci-fi city. It's a game that clearly cribs a lot of notes from Dead Space, which is no bad thing in my view. We have crazies slithering around in the dark, we have human enemies who've clearly lost their minds, and it does seem to have a parallel story of some kind too, maybe with flashbacks, like Returnal style maybe. I'm intrigued and I think I'll keep this one in my back pocket until Halloween time comes around. That is Chronos: The New Dawn, out on PC and all the consoles on the 5th. Speaking of Silent Hill, we also get Silent Hill F this month. This is the first Silent Hill game set in Japan. They're usually set in like a mysterious, foggy American town, and I don't think anyone quite knows what to expect from this game. It draws on the Silent Hill mythos, but in a really new way, so we just don't know if it's going to be good, if it's going to capture that same feeling, but it's definitely trying to. It does carry over that creepy horror school thing of Silent Hill 2. That's out on the 25th. And then let's finish with a retro pull. On the 30th of the month, the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection comes to all the consoles and PC. And regular viewers might be thinking, what on earth is Mortal Kombat doing on Gaming in the Wild? And while I don't play fighting games anymore, I did grow up with them. I spent much of my summer holidays as a kid putting coins into Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. The visual style of those games was state of the art at the time. It was revolutionary and it looks so old and corny now. But these games will forever have a nostalgic place in my gamer history, and I think video game history as a whole. I think I remember just having to try stuff out on a joystick to discover moves. Crazy how things have changed since then, but that is the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection coming to all the consoles and PC on the 30th of the month. So that is September 2025 in video games. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I want to let you know that there is also a weekly audio Gaming in the Wild podcast. So if you like this channel and you'd like to hear more from me, the audio podcast is a place where I speak more at length. I will tend to run through all of the games that I'm playing and all the games that I tried and just, talk more about games. The YouTube algorithm rewards concision and being snappy and speaking fast. And if you'd like to hear me just relaxing a little bit and talking about games in a more relaxed fashion, you can find it on my YouTube homepage. There is a podcasts tab there. It's also available on Apple Music and everywhere else. I will also mention that if you're a Steam player, I have a Steam curator page which is run by patron Dovetail, so thanks very much to Dovetail for running that page. You can become a follower of that, and as you're browsing Steam, it will tell you if a game has been recommended by Gaming in the Wild, which I think is really useful, so check it out, link in the description. And finally, there is of course the Patreon if you want to support me more. That's patreon.com/gaminginthewild. And with that, until the next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and bye-bye for now.